It would seem... Shall we go?
When I found the dolly in the repository, there was a pool of blood in the equipment. So there's my...
Yeah, the subject of how...
I'm not sure that really
I'd be happy to explain why the occupant of the suit couldn't if... As we know, Taka was killed in the equipment room. And from there, the body was moved to the repository, correct?
Yeah, the culprit wrapped the body in the tarp, then loaded it onto the dolly and wheeled it off, right?
Now, keep in mind that the dolly doesn't have a handle.
Well, yeah, but even without a handle, all you'd have to do is bend over. Then you could push the dolly no problem. So the killer just crouched down and carted the body off to the repository.
If you accept everything we just said, then you must realize that whoever was in the suit couldn't possibly be the culprit.
Sorry, I don't think I realize anything.
As we know, Taka was killed in the equipment room. And from there, the body was moved to the repository, correct?
Yeah, the culprit wrapped the body in the tarp, then loaded it onto the dolly and wheeled it off, right?
Now, keep in mind that the dolly doesn't have a handle.
Well, yeah, but even without a handle, all you'd have to do is bend over.
No, that's wrong! You're absolutely right that you could push a dolly without a handle if you stoop down low.
So what is it? What needs to be...
We must clarify the method of training. It would seem that his corpse was... Makoto, can you tell...
I got it! I got it! They were a dolly and a... When you're in that suit, not only can you not see your feet, but you can't even bend at the waist. Am I right about that?
Now that you mention it, yeah.
It seems like it...
Well,
When you can't...
yeah!
It's very...
Well, I mean...
I got it! I don't think taking off the suit was an option. If you...
That's true. It seems impossible to put the...
Then, you really can't take it off by yourself?
Of course I wasn't.
If he could have gotten it off by him, showing up in the suit was basically an invitation for everyone to suspect it.
Right!
So...
To be clear,
No, wait. Just a second, if you please. Have you forgotten about the picture that I took? You all got a good look at it. If whoever was in that suit is Besides, do you remember what the So long as those facts exist, the proper conclusion is beyond question. The individual inside the suit.
yeah.
It's still far too... Besides, before we rush to a verdict, shouldn't we, instead of seizing on one...
perhaps.
Let's review this series of unfortunate
I don't disagree, but our lot.
Plus, maybe we'll get to find out.
All right then. I suppose we could start. 4 of us gathered together and we waited there for quite a while. That was around 8 a.m.
And as soon as we split up, Kyoko went
Soon after that, Hina found Celeste.
It seems I was unconscious for about an hour after I know it was an hour, because
That was when we saw Celeste's picture, and as it turns out, it was Robo-Justice. It also soon became... We were soon joined in our search by Byakuya and Toko, and then went on to find Hifuki was injured, so we took him to the... But not long after leaving...
When Celeste and And then... At that point, we decided to divide up into 2 groups while Sakura, Byakuya, and Toko chased after the suspect. When we got back to the room, and that...
Mean we must because...
And that's then the three, but right after we ran into Celeste. We rushed back to the nurse's.
Then we remembered But when we got there, next thing we knew, and after some time...
Celeste informed us that she'd found the bodies, and we all... Which is where we
I think that about covers it.
I see. The whole thing sounds... It certainly seems to me that these are not a simple series of connected events.
Okay, well, if that's true, then what?
Rather than a single series of... And from there, now then. So, regarding Taka's death, I wonder if he died before Hifumi, or perhaps it was after?
We already know what order they were killed in. Taka came last.
What makes you say that?
Because of the numbering of the Justice Hammers.
Shoot! I refuse to give up yet!
So, regarding Taka's death, I wonder if he died before Hifumi, or perhaps it was after?
We already know what order they were killed in. Taka came last.
What makes you say that?
Because of the numbering of the Justice Hammers.
It's true that Hifumi was killed with Justice Hammer 3, while Taka's death came from a swing of Justice Hammer 4.
See? So it's obvious Taka came after.
So, regarding Taka's death, I wonder if he died before Hifumi, or perhaps it was after?
We already know what order they were killed in.
Shoot!
So, regarding Taka's death, I wonder if he died before Hifumi, or perhaps it was after?
We already know what order they were killed in. Taka came last.
What makes you say that?
Because of the numbering of the Justice Hammers.
It's true that Hifumi was killed with Justice Hammer 3, while Taka's death came from a swing of Justice Hammer 4.
See? So it's obvious Taka came after.
So, regarding Taka's death, I wonder if he died before Hifumi, or perhaps it was after?
We already know what order they were killed in. Taka came last.
What makes you say that?
Because of the numbering of the Justice Hammers.
Shoot!
So, regarding Taka's death, I wonder if he died before Hifumi, or perhaps it was after?
We already know what order they were killed in.
Shoot!
So, regarding Taka's death, I wonder if he died before Hifumi, or perhaps it was after?
We already know what order they were killed in. Taka came last
What makes you say that?
because of the numbering of the Justice Hammers.
It's true that Hifumi was killed with Justice Hammer 3, while Taka's death came from a swing of Justice Hammer 4.
See? So it's obvious Taka came after.
So, regarding Taka's death, I wonder if he died before Hifumi, or perhaps it was after?
We already know what order they were killed in. Taka came last
What makes you say that?
because of the numbering of the Justice.
No, that's wrong! Hold on. There's no reason to assume that the hammers were used in the same order as their number. If anything, that's
Possible!
Well, what if
What? How?
if the dead body?
The dead body.
No!
I don't think it has anything to do with we thought Hifumi was dead.
He was.
Are you saying Hifumi wasn't?
But I mean, we thought
Perhaps he was simply playing dead.
that.
Are you saying that when we first found Hifumi in the nurse's office, there's a chance he was actually still alive?
No, it is impossible. Hifumi was dead, without a doubt.
And you know that how?
Surely you heard the body discovery announcement along with the rest of us. Hifumi's dead body had been found. And that is why the announcement was made.
Are we really so sure about that? Maybe the announcement was intended to signal someone else's discovery.
Are you saying that when we first found Hifumi in the nurse's office, there's a chance he was actually still alive?
No, it is impossible. Hifumi was dead, without a doubt.
And you know that how?
Surely you heard the body discovery announcement along with the rest of us. Hifumi's dead body had been found.
Shoot!
Are you saying that when we first found Hifumi in the nurse's office, there's a chance he was actually still alive?
Shoot!
Are you saying that when we first found Hifumi in the nurse's office, there's a chance he was actually still alive?
No, it is impossible. Hifumi was dead, without a doubt.
And you know that how?
Surely you heard the body discovery announcement along with the rest of us. Hifumi's dead body had been found. And that is why the announcement was made.
Are we really so sure about that? Maybe the announcement was intended to signal someone else's discovery.
Shoot! Is this really the end for all of us? I refuse to give up yet!
Are you saying that when we first found Hifumi in the nurse's office, there's a chance he was actually still alive?
No, it is impossible. Hifumi was dead, without a doubt.
And you know that how?
Surely you heard the body discovery announcement along with the rest of us. Hifumi's dead body had been found. And that is why the announcement was made.
Are we really so sure about that? Maybe the announcement was intended to signal someone else's discovery.
Are you saying that when...
It must have gotten broken. So if it wasn't broken after...
And that would be him.
But if that's true...
And before Celeste was attacked this...
That's right. Taka was killed.
That simple fact slipped. We made the wrong assumption.
That's exactly why the culprit were that way when we saw how they were used.
Now, if Taka was killed, because when he was killed, we hadn't...
That may be true, but all of our...
That's right. When we heard Hifumi screaming, then we all ran down to the nurse's office, and that's where we found his body. That's totally true. We're all in the clear.
Oh, I know!
If that's true,
I don't know.
don't just go making stuff.
Anyway, we all...
And it does not stop there. With Hina and then at that...
Well, don't forget.
Wait, then what if Genocide Jill did it? She could have...
Even if she could pull that off, there's no way, because, as we just established, she was passed out in the equipment room.
Besides, I didn't do either of them anyway.
In other words, it is impossible that any of us could have killed. On the other hand, Hiro and Kyoko had disappeared. So they...
For now, we can't get fixated on who did it, or we'll just keep going around in circles. So instead of who, in particular, I think we need to figure out how Hifumi's body got moved.
That's true. We searched everywhere, but we couldn't figure out. And according to what Celeste... His body apparently disappeared in the 1 minute her and Hina took their eyes off of it. But to carry that much weight from the first floor...
Oh man, yeah.
Their action.
So you're saying the culprit, but in reality... Okay then.
I refuse to give up yet! Now I understand! I've got it! Papa's wristwatch! See? Look!
Office. There's a chance he was actually still alive.
No, it is impossible. Hifumi was dead, without a doubt.
And you know that how?
Surely you heard the body discovery announcement along with the rest of us. Hifumi's dead body had been found.
Shoot!
Are you saying that when we first found Hifumi in the nurse's office, there's a chance he was actually still alive?
No, it is impossible. Hifumi was dead, without a doubt.
And you know that how?
Surely you heard the body discovery announcement along with the rest of us. Hifumi's dead body had been found. And that is why the announcement was made.
Are we really so sure about that? Maybe the announcement was intended to signal someone else's discovery.
Are you saying that when we first found Hifumi in the nurse's office, there's a chance he was actually still alive?
No, it is impossible. Hifumi was dead, without a doubt.
And you know that how?
Surely you heard the body discovery announcement along with the rest of us. Hifumi's dead body had been...
No, that's wrong! Was the body discovery announcement that was made really intended for Hifumi?
Of course it was. The announcement clicked.
Maybe. But that was also...
That's right. It wasn't long after finding...
So there's a good chance we made a mistake. I think we've confused whether the announcement was...
First of all, if two bodies had been found...
Maybe Monokuma...
What do you say, Monokuma?
Well, it's a very but what I can say about the body, it's only broadcast when 3 or more people find a dead...
That didn't answer our question, man. We're asking if you're a lazy bum.
No, actually, that was... He said it's only broadcast when a body is... Even if we find the same body again later, if that's true, then why was the announcement made again later on?
Huh? Later on?
Exactly. We heard the... Shoot! Shoot! I got it! We heard it a second time in the repository, when we rediscovered the two bodies. It didn't seem weird at the time.
Exactly. If we were actually rediscovering both bodies, the announcement
And in reality, when the two dead bodies were rediscovered, one of them was actually...
So, when we found Hifumi the first time in the meaning, he wasn't actually found...
And that's just part of it. There's one other thing that leads...
Oh, I know! Because he was super good at playing dead!
That is the worst lodge, but honestly, I do not think there's anything that can prove he was still alive.
Okay then, let's take another look at the events surrounding the discovery of his body. Then it should become clear whether he was really alive or not.
This whole thing is...
Well, here's one thing we do know. The first time we found Hifumi's body was in the nurse's office. And then, while me and Celeste were in the bathroom, his body disappeared.
And the next time we saw his body, it was in the repository.
But when you compare his body before being moved and his body after being moved, other than the change in how it was positioned...
Shoot!
Well, here's one thing we do know. The first time we found Hifumi's body was in the nurse's office. And then, while me and Celeste were in the bathroom, his body disappeared.
And the next time we saw his body, it was in the repository.
But when you compare his body before being moved and his body after being moved, other than the change in how it was positioned, there was no notable difference.
Then, was he really still alive?
Of course not. It is impossible. This is ridiculous.
Well, here's one thing we do know. The first time we found Hifumi's body was in the nurse's office. And then, while me and Celeste were in the bathroom, his body disappeared.
And the next time we saw his body, it was in the repository.
But when you compare his body before being moved and his body after being moved, other than the change in how it was positioned, no notable difference.
Then, was he really still alive?
Of course not. It is impossible. This is ridiculous.
Well, here's one thing we do know. The first time we found Hifumi's body was in the nurse's office. And then, while me and Celeste were in the bathroom, his body disappeared.
And the next time we saw his body, it was in the repository.
But when you compare his body before being moved and his body after being moved, other than the change in how it was positioned, there was no notable difference.
No, that's wrong!
Whoa, yeah. After seeing all, he was behind the whole thing! In fact...
When we found him in the repository,
So then,
He was killed in the repository.
So, he must have been killed.
During that time, we'd all split up. In other words, during that time,
stop trying to steal the spotlight. Who are you calling a walrus?
And what might that be?
The weapon?
The way Taka and Hifumi were killed was almost the same, with them having similar fractures and all. But Justice Hammer 3 and 4 were still laying around in the nurse's office on equipment, so if Hifumi was killed in the culprit would have had to grab one of the hammers, kill, then put the hammer back where they... But wouldn't that be serious?
I'm surprised.
So personally, I had...
those were accounted for in other rooms too. And I don't think either one...
Is it not possible they used a different weapon?
I don't think it is possible. They were both killed with the...
So then, what... What was used to kill Hifumi? Was it Justice Hammer 3? Maybe Justice Hammer 4?
Well, whatever it was, There's one thing we have to figure out. How was the culprit able to move around so freely with the weapon? How did nobody witness them carrying it?
Sounds like a Justice Hammer 5 is about to make its appearance!
Shoot! I refuse to give up yet!
What was used to kill Hifumi? Was it Justice Hammer 3? Maybe Justice Hammer 4?
Well, whatever it was, there's one thing we have to figure out. How was the culprit able to move around so freely with the weapon? How did nobody witness them carrying it?
Sounds like a Justice Hammer 5 is about to make its appearance! Check out murdergear.com/hammertime for more info!
Well, one thing seems pretty clear. The murder weapon had to be one of the Justice Hammers!
No, that's wrong! The murder weapon wasn't a
But...
specifically a hammer.
The fridge in the nurse's office contains packs of blood for emergencies. He probably...
He figured if he was gonna play dead, he should go all out, but he got crazy with it and had to wipe his glasses off when he was...
And if Hifumi was still alive at that point, the disappear... It should be perfectly...
I got it! It could only have been he.
While we were all gathered in the nurse's...
That also explains how the door to the...
The door was locked? Well, after the bodies Sumi and Sakura headed for the repository. But when we got there, the door...
And the repository door can... Which means when Hina and Sakura got to the repository, someone...
And it could only have been Hifumi.
He convinced us all he was dead. And when he saw his chance, he dragged Taka. So, Hifumi wasn't just another victim in this case. He was one of...
But that means...
I just...
If you're having trouble, would you like...
There's more...
Oh, absolutely. You know what I'm talking about, right, Makoto?
Shoot! I got it! You're talking about the note Hifumi had hidden away, aren't you?
Hidden...
That's right. We found it stuffed in his pants.
What? In his pants?
Okay, well, forget...
That's the note I was telling you about! The one that took... Huh? What? Monokuma can't...
See.
It's not the same?
In other words, the killer got into... And that person could only have been... I got it! That's right! Taka! The killer used this note to draw out Taka and
Hello? Over here? I don't really understand what's going on. So whoever wrote it wasn't drawing out TikTok. They before. Must have been happy!
But remember what the note said. What time did it say to meet?
6 a.m., I believe.
The time doesn't matter! The note has nothing to do with TikTok!
No, it's wrong! No, there absolutely is a connection. The notes, you've already proven that using his wristwatch. Glasses.
Perhaps you'd like to fill the rest of us in?
When we found But when we found him again later in the repository, they were spotless. And I got it! It was a glasses cleaning cloth featuring a certain cartoon mascot. One look at the bloodstain on the cloth should make things clear. This piece is from the mascot of... And whose digital camera was it?
The character was... Princess Piggles.
I highly doubt anyone but he...
I see your point. And the only...
I wouldn't be caught dead.
A few tissues is all I need.
Then there's no question. What I'm saying is, the blood...
Even if that is true, it doesn't...
But who would benefit from a clean pair of...
That's a good...
And it must have been him, right?
So let's assume he pretended
...that to kill Hifumi. Now, all the hammers that for some reason...
Huh?
And the reason it had been scrubbed clean was most likely if the hammer got covered in Hifumi's blood. I'd also like to point out that the and even some flat I think whoever made the Justice Hammers used those as a base.
If that's true, that would explain the Monokuma...
So Hifumi moved Taki.
Based on the rules that have been laid out for us, even if more than one person is complicit in the murder, only the one who actually carried out the act can graduate and survive. Assuming the rule holds true, it is simply impossible that two people work together on this.
That is how the rule was explained to us.
But that only really applies if there's one murder, right? In this case, however, there were two murders.
Based on the rules that have been laid out for us, even if more than one person is complicit in the murder, only the one who actually carried out the act can graduate and survive. Assuming the rule holds true, it is simply impossible that two people work together on this.
That is how the rule was explained to us.
But that only really applies if there's one murder, right? In this case, however, there were two murders.
Based on the rules that have been laid out for us, even if more than one person is complicit in the murder, only the one who actually carried out the act can graduate and survive. Assuming the rule holds true.
No, that's wrong! Since there were two murders, it's at least plausible that more than one person...
What do you mean?
If there'd only been one murder, then yes, naturally, if only one person can be saved per murder, an accomplice has no risk versus reward benefit.
risk versus reward benefit?
The payoff for working together. The reward that balance. There's no point in being someone's accomplice. And they made him.
Instead, each person killed and a single suspect.
I understand how an accomplice could.
Here's my answer. It was Celeste.
So I'm the suspicious individual. I really do hate this.
A joke? I wonder.
So what you are saying then is that the idea that I would choose to spend any amount of time interacting with him, that I would go within 10 feet of that shit from brains, that lazy. Pardon-moi.
Just to be clear, there is...
Is that so?
It is. Throughout the investigation, there was, considering what we've learned so far, it...
I got it! The behavior they had in common has to do with the suspicious and the only ones who ever actually saw Robo-Justice first.
Shush! The adults are talking.
Sorry.
As he said, only Celeste and Hifumi ever laid eyes on the costumed individual. If we accept that
Are you saying everything they...
after taking Hifumi to the nurses and not too long, we headed to the second floor. Next, to draw us all to the physics lab up on the third floor,
She let out a blood.
and when we'd all come to see what was wrong, what it was.
It was to get us to divide into two groups.
In well, if Celeste and on top of that, that piercing cry of yours early on. That was to signal Hifumi, wasn't it? Why else would you let out a scream that could...
I just realized another strange thing. When we found Hifumi in the nurse's office, Celeste, you wanted to make sure we wouldn't have any doubt in our... Hina,
I have no idea...
Don't bother. You made it.
Oh,
I didn't need... I'm...
that murderous... They drugged him, knocked him... Next, Hifumi positioned himself to make it look like Robo-Justice was attacking him, while the killer used a digital camera to take pictures of the assault. They did all this when they were done. Here's exactly what happened. And then finally, at 6 a.m., and that's where Hifumi, the murder, their plan, and they... Celeste! Sorry, you lose.
Okay, Monokuma.
And will you make the right choice, or...
Honest.
I knew it. So then,
Indeed.
Say what?
just a second. In other words,
Indeed.
I see.
Actually,
What?
are you okay with this? So then,
Damnation! Say what?
as for me,
Oh. What? Damnation!
actually,
What?
indeed.
This is unforgivable! Hmm?
So in the end,
There is nothing to be done.
Just the worst.
Oh. Do you understand?
What?
Let me out of here!
Too bad. How strange. Hey! Wah-wah?
So then, you.
Who?
Hey,
Ooh, how it...